This is Inside the Locker Room, where football isn't just a game, it's a war zone. Every take, unfiltered. Every prediction, ruthless. From Sunday battles to primetime legends. We break down the matchups, the mind games, and the moments that define champions. Fantasy, film, trash talk, all inside the locker room. So if you came for smoke, you're in the fire now.
We are back with another episode of HBCU Central on Inside the Locker Room. If y'all tuned into our last video, make sure you check that out with Mr. Elijah Wilson from Johnson C. Central. He did an amazing job. But today we have our very own Mississippi Valley forward, Ariel Johnson. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm fine. How are you?
Thank you. We're doing good. We're doing good. And, thank you for taking time out of your day, to come and join us. Normally what I do to start these shows off is I let Michael start off with the interview. So, Michael, here, you got the keys.
Yeah, Deuce. The audio kind of cut out. I don't know if you can hear me, but I
Yeah, we
couldn't hear
can.
you. But Ms. Jefferson, we want to welcome you to HBCU Central. Michael, this is Deuce. We hope that you enjoy. And to start this off, Ms. Jefferson, my first question to you is like I told you when I text you, uh, I go by chapters when I ask these questions. And
Okay.
the first chapter for you is called Leadership and the Valley Way. Um, but this question here is the graduate perspective. So, Ms. Jefferson, as a graduate student, you've seen different levels of college ball, right?
hmm
What makes the culture and sisterhood at Mississippi Valley State University different from anywhere else you've played?
Um, First I would have to say the family it gives family from the coaches all the way down to my teammates. I just feel like first they make me feel like I'm at home. So it just brings a different mindset to me of when I play and I play for people that I know care about me, I just feel like it brings more sisterhood and more strength and bonding to actually want to play harder and want to accomplish so much.
Yeah, and the one thing I always ask, our HBCU players is, because HBCUs attract students from all over, and there's many different reasons. But the one question I ask you is, what about Mississippi Valley attracted you to come play there as a senior?
Um, I would have to say it was close to home, not really close, but it's kind of close to home. And the coaches, like the assistant coach Ashley Shields, I actually played against her in the She Got Game League Memphis, and always was very competitive and always was very strategic when I played against her. So I just knew off rip, me playing for her or in her vicinity, I always knew that it was going to be a great outcome. So that alone. And then when I came to visit, I was able to bring my son, my mother, my nephew, and my sister, and it just felt like home.
Yeah, and like we tell all our guests all the time, there's a saying, "There's no place like home." As Dorothy said on Wizard of the Oz, "There's no place like home," right?
hmm
And that's one of the big key things that I have our guests explain that there's nothing wrong with going back home or going to a university close to home because you never want to drift away from family because family is everything.
Right.
And without family support, what other support do you have? And that's a very important thing to have because, like I said, family is important. We need family, especially if family is not funny because you can have a funny family and they don't support you at all. So it's good that you
Right.
actually have a good family that supports you regardless of your situation because it's always best to have a supportive family than a fake family. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, Miss Jefferson, we're still in this same chapter, but this is my last question for you in this chapter, and then I have one more after this. Okay?
Okay.
This question is called "Overcoming the Odds." Mississippi Valley State, and I mean this respectfully, is often seen as an underdog in the SWAC, right?
Correct.
How does that Valley against the world? That's why I put parentheses, Valley against the world mentality feel your performance on the boards.
Repeat your question.
Okay, so Mississippi Valley State is often seen as an underdog in the SWAC. How
Hmm.
does that battle against the world mentality feel your performance on the boards?
I would have to say, first it starts in preseason. When they put the preseason polls up, I want to say they ranked us last or very, very bottom of the pack. So that
Very
alone right
bottom.
there, when it was brought to us, it made me feel some type of way because I was always somewhere where we was underdogs anyways, and we always the people that I was around always found a way to come out on the top or very close to the top. So seeing the poll and like it already touched me different because like I said, I've always been in that type of vicinity. But then to
Right.
see and hear my teammates also like ain't no way they put us that low and they don't even know who we are. So that alone, first that struck a little bell to me that I took everything personal and
Mm,
made me work even harder. And then two, just the amount of time and effort our coaches and just my teammates, like the time and effort we took out to perform and to be
mm.
greater and be better. It's just I don't know, that just put it in me that I just had to work even harder. We just had to work even harder. So I would say I always been at the bottom and Valley, like you said, always been at the bottom. So that alone just made us want to bring it up and raise alarm that Valley is here.
Great
Yeah,
response. Great response. And the one question I always ask transfer students, and especially you because you are a senior. So the one thing I ask you is, how did you find your role in as a transferring senior to a new offensive system, a new defensive system, and a new game plan?
Um, hmm. How did I find myself in the system? It started in go back to the off season. It started in the off season. When I was transitioning over to Valley, I had a long talk with the coaches, asked what were they looking for, what was they expecting. So we kind of had an understanding as I was coming in, what were they expecting from me, what was they looking for from our team. So me coming in as a senior, I'm like, I know I have to be a leader, whether it's vocal, physically, I have to be a leader. So that's that's what it took me to be a leader and lead by not only my words but my actions as well on the court and off the court.
absolutely. And I'm gonna kind of jump back to what you said before. First and foremost, I have total respect for Mississippi Valley State University. I grew up learning the history of Mississippi Valley State University and how it started and the greats that came from there. But over time, I think people, like I said before, are putting Mississippi Valley State at the bottom of the conference because they're not a threat. But I honestly feel like Mississippi Valley State is still considered a threat, regardless of their situation, regardless of the I guess the low performance level, I guess if you want to call it. It's still a very impactful and an athletic historical black college. But over time, I think Mississippi Valley State University can still be a huge impact, not just in the SWAC, but in HBCUs in general. It just takes it just takes a momentum shift, I guess. I guess you want to say, from coaches to players and from the community as well, because community also plays a big part in the success of an athletic team. That's just how it is. That's just the reality of it. But Miss Jefferson, my last question to you is this question is called the Delta Connection.
Mhm.
Playing in the heart of Mississippi Delta, how do you feel the local community's passion for Valley State impacts the energy inside Harrison Complex?
Who? I would have to say once if it alone automatically like our gym usually be semi packed,
Hmm.
so that brings energy to the players alone. Like just walking in the gym and we seeing people actually, even though they steady ranking us at the bottom of the barrel, like
Right.
people still coming to support to me. And I know to my team, like we be like, yeah, we here. We gotta get them something, whether it's we gotta get them something. Like we gotta get them something to be excited for, something to want to keep seeing and come watch. So I just feel like it's a lot. It means a lot, whether people know it or not. It really do mean a lot because
Absolutely.
Valley had, like you say, always was put at the bottom. So just to know that people outside of Itabena and outside of our school, people to go here
Mm,
and people that teach, it means a lot.
absolutely. And I'm gonna say this right quick. Me and Deuce have total respect for Mississippi Valley State University. If no one else, we do. Because like I said, we don't just make this platform just to, get players on, just to get viewership recognition. I care less about that. You can take that on with somebody else. But here at HBCU Central with Deuce and me, we try to get universities like Mississippi Valley State on the map because regardless of a school situation, they are still one of the top institutions in HBCUs. And Mississippi Valley State is that, regardless of the athletic situation. They are still that school to go to because greats went to that school. So,
That's
regardless of
right.
that, Mississippi Valley State deserves the respect that they deserve. But the media, they don't respect y'all because of the reason of the declinement that y'all are in. But that does not mean the community, us, HBCU Central, we're behind you. So regardless of what people think, keep skyrocketing because it's only gonna be a matter of time where people are going to respect Mississippi Valley State. I'm like, dang,
And
Mississippi
start
Valley,
jumping aboard.
yeah, they used to be down here, and now all of a sudden they up here. You wanna know why they up here? Because y'all were so caught on the record and how low they were, but you never saw what was coming and what they were building upon. Sometimes you have to
Right.
start from the bottom to come up to the top, right? So that's what Mississippi
Right.
Valley that's what Mississippi Valley is going to come in, and I believe Mississippi Valley will be a surprise to everyone.
Yeah, and
It will.
one thing about that, we see this all the time where teams will finish low, and then the next season, they get to the mid part of the rankings. Then the next season, they get to the top of the rankings. Stuff just takes time. I always tell people, you don't hop off the train because its success is not going how you want right then and there. And I always say this: Rome wasn't built in a day, so you just have to keep, continue and just keep trusting in, the process. But Ms. Jefferson, the last question I have for you, and that I always ask our guests is, can you just describe the culture of Mississippi Valley? Because each HBCU has different cultures. I go to Grambling, so Grambling has its one identity. We say where everybody is somebody, and we have our type of events, our type of cultures. But Mississippi and Louisiana, those are two different states, two different universities. So the question I ask you is, can you just describe the culture of Mississippi Valley?
The saying is one valley, one goal in motion, and I that's really what we stand on. It we one team, no matter if our boys record for football is 0-20 and basketball is 3-20. Like we're one valley, we one goal because we all have the same mindset of to be successful in everything that we do, graduate, and keep our numbers up, and one motion. We all moving forward, no matter if it's by inches, centimeters, millimeters. Like we're moving forward. So that's our culture.
Great answer. And Michael, do you have?
Yeah, I got. I know I said that last question was my last question, but this question came up that I had wrote down, and at first I wasn't going to use it, but I got to ask this question because I feel like this is important information, especially for you, Miss Jefferson.
Okay.
So this question is called Beyond the Court. How has attending an HBCU influenced your personal growth and your goals for life after basketball?
Oh, I was waiting on this question or something similar. One, HBCUs already don't have the perfect look or
Mm,
the perfect word around the world about us. So
there it is.
and I've attended Arkansas Baptist College, which they didn't have a really good record or word around the world about them, and Mississippi Valley State that don't have a really good record or word around them. So for one, like courage, it takes courage for anybody to go to college and to keep going. It takes courage and it takes time, patience. So I feel like coming to HBCU, I have grown a lot of patience, a lot of courage, a lot of discipline, because it takes discipline, a lot of
Yes.
discipline to be a student athlete, not just a athlete to just go play sports but then don't go to class. I have a 4.0 for a reason. So it takes discipline. And I want to say HBCUs have a bad look and a bad taste in people's mouth, but
Hmm?
it builds character. So character, courage, discipline.
Hello. That's a good way of putting it right there. That's what I've been trying to preach this entire time. That's what me and Deuce have been trying to preach forever. That the difference between HBCUs is so breathtaking.
There's
It
a lot.
builds so many ways that you can't even describe. And it's just like that's what people get it twisted about HBCUs is that they think HBCUs is just a low grade school, but no, it's history over here. You
It
know,
is.
it's a historical family tree over here. You know, it's kind of like what's that website? Ancestry or something like that. It's some,
Ancestry.com.
yeah, ancestry.com. So, that's kind of what you just described, and I can put it no way better than that. That's why I said hello, because that was good, because that's what we've been trying to preach. And the fact that you even touched base on that in your own words, that just put the icing on the cake for me. I don't really have anything else to say, but you just broke it down, Ms. Jefferson, in ways that we have been trying to preach to everyone. The HBCUs is a historical family over here. It's history over here. All our brothers
It's
and
bigger
sisters.
than
Oh,
what they think.
yes. And that's what they get it twisted on. That's why I tell people, do your research before you judge. But Deuce, that's really all I got. Miss Jefferson, first of all, I gotta give you applause for that, because that was a good response. That was a good
Thank you.
response. Deuce, I'm gonna get it back on you, man. I ain't got nothing else.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Jefferson. Thank you for coming out. Taking time. To come and speak with us. Share your thoughts. And you know, congratulations on having a 4.0, because maintaining a
Yeah.
4.0 throughout college, is incredible. It is incredible, and that's gonna get you far, very far. With your transcript, that's gonna get
Yes.
you far. But like I said, thank you for joining. We didn't want to take too much of your time, but
Y'all fine.
it was a great episode. It was great having you on. From Deuce, thank you for joining. And Michael,
Yes. Thank you for
Thank y'all
joining.
so much for the opportunity as well.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. Have a
Yeah.
great evening.
Y'all too.
So, Michael, we were just talking about the HBCU All-Star game last week that was going on in Indianapolis, and we said that this was going to be important for HBCUs because it's going to get viewership, and HBCUs really just, we spoke about it last week. HBCUs really just they did something in the tournament, regardless what you want, they raised eyes in the tournament, and one thing I'm starting to notice recently is HBCUs have been making a little bit of noise, and we'll talk about a little bit other sports in a sec. But the one thing I want to talk about, Michael, is the HBCU All-Star game, because I posted clips in that, and that HBCU the game was filled of people that had a lot of accolades. There was our Tuskegee player who was the first to have his jersey retired. And we preached about that. We said staying loyal to your school, and that's what happens, despite how small Tuskegee was. Loyalty, loyalty. But this All-Star game, Michael, I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts and opinions on the All-Star game?
Dudes, I was very let me say this, dudes. I was very excited. One, for HBCUs, two, for the community of HBCUs, and three, but most importantly, for the players. Because like I preached before, dudes, it's one thing that HBCU players or athletes don't get is enough media recognition. They don't get enough, all-star playing game environments, or like I said, media attention to send a message to the NBA community or the WNBA community. And this game was just it was a foundation historical event that helped build players and expose their how can I put this, athleticism, encourage their identity as a player, and it also put the universities that these guys are playing for on the map. And first of all, shout out to that player that got his jersey retired at Tuskegee, because like we just said, dudes, loyalty is everything. Loyalty.
I got his name. I got his name so we can give him the proper shout out. Kusami Draper. Kusami Draper from Tuskegee. Shout out to you. You know, first to get your jersey retired in Tuskegee. A basketball player.
Dudes, as a matter of fact, I am in communication with him. I am in communication with him, and I'm trying to get him on the show. So
also, hey, we got a couple all-star players that we were trying to get on here. We got a couple that we were trying to get on here. So, you know, trust,
because they deserve to be on here.
The recognition. You know, the one thing I say, these smaller schools, it's already a problem that the big HBCUs don't get enough attention. But bringing the smaller HBCU players on here, like we've been doing, Edward Waters, Johnson C. Smith, Fayetteville State, you know, I can go on all day. Tuskegee, Morehouse, these smaller HBCUs, you know, they deserve as much attention as possible. And, you know, the one thing I'm going to say this, I enjoyed the All-Star game. I really did. But the one thing that bugged me though, and it was a great event, you know, because Michael, I remember I told you I went to the one in San Antonio last year when the Grambling band performed. And also shout out to Tennessee State's band who just performed at the All-Star game too. But the one thing I hate is, why YouTube? You know, why YouTube? Look, and you know, look, this is still a relatively new event. I think it's like 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
But it's gonna have to come a time where we start getting this All-Star game on ESPN2, ESPNU. It doesn't even have to be a major station yet, but it just needs to be on a station to, you know, where it can be broadcasted more worldwide. And you know, and I believe it will come, because let me say this: that's each year that event just keeps going up in numbers and numbers and numbers. But the one thing I also say this: the HBCU community themselves have to get out and support.
Yes.
Get out and support. They have to, and I also like, and I'm not trying to like you know, talk bad on anybody, but at the same time, as much I feel like not us necessarily, but others have to do more promoting the word of HBCUs if they want to see it do better.
Absolutely.
And I just feel like it wasn't enough. As much promoting as you wanted, it wasn't enough promoting that, you know, could go on. And Michael, I remember I told you, let's promote this event to help out, get some people to watch it. And I successfully believe we did, because I showed some of my family members who watched it, and they, you know, we got, you know, clips posted out on Instagram. I think they reached like 4,000, 5,000. So, you know, it most definitely made news, but you know, you would just want more.
But it didn't do good enough. And like you just said, dudes, why YouTube? And first of all, let me say this. You're right. It don't need to take a big major sports broadcasting system. It don't really need to take that. But in my honest opinion, it does. It does, and it don't. But at the same time, I feel like it does. But like you just said, Deuce, the community needs to upscale this event way better than what they have been doing. Like you said, Deuce, we literally been trying to promote this as much as possible. But the sad part about it is that YouTube is coming into effect. Don't get me wrong, that's good too, because that's viewership, and that's good and all, but it shouldn't take ESPNU, HBCU Go, or Swag TV, or whatever. It should not take those sports media systems. What it should take ESPN. It should take I don't know, CBS, if you want to call it. Deuce, the point is, the HBCU All-Star Game is a great event, but it's not enough support. And dudes, I got a breakdown for you on why the visibility gap was the reason for all this. And I'm gonna go on and break it down for you right quick. Watch this. The HBCU All-Star Game. Let me give you the definition first. The HBCU All-Star Game helps the historical Black colleges and universities like I said, HBCUs, providing a national platform to bridge the visibility gap, like I just said before, between their talented athletes and professional scouts. Watch this. By strategically aligning with the NCAA men's Final Four weekend, the event ensures that HBCU excellence is showcased when the entire basketball world is watching. But here are the key benefits of to HBCUs, Deuce. One, professional exposure and scouting. Deuce, this weekend features a pro day combine that allows graduating seniors to be evaluated by the NBA, G League, and international scouts. In 2025, dude, scouts from 25 of 30 NBA teams attended to scout HBCU talent. That'll shock you right there. Second thing, national visibility. We just talked about this. The game is broadcast live on major networks like CBS, providing millions of viewers within an opportunity to witness HBCU excellence, culture, and legacy that might otherwise miss. Number 3, recruitment and admissions. Events include an HBCU college admissions and scholarship fair, exposing local high school students to ensure education opportunities and helping institutions attract future scholars. Number 4, financial support and scholarships. Thus, the HBCU All-Stars Foundation provides an academic scholarships and financial assistance to current and prospective students. Past events like the 2025 NBA All-Star calibration, committed over $3 million to organize like the UNCF and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Number 5, economic and community impact. Watch this, dude. The weekend includes Black Business Ventures Showcase, encouraging attendees to support local Black-owned businesses and keep dollars circulating within the community. Last thing, narrative change. By placing HBCU talent on a global stage, the game challenges outdated narratives about the quality of basketball at these institutions, helping them compete for top recruits and who might otherwise choose powerhouse programs. Dude, this whole event was to uplift HBCU athletes to a higher level. And like we talked about before, dudes, these HBCU players deserve as much scouting, media attention, viewership, just like these powerhouse schools are. But what these powerhouse schools got and what the HBCUs don't have is games like this. This game, all-star game right here, is basically the Pro Bowl, if you think about it.
I like it too. I love the concept. You got your D1 school. I mean, you got your Division 1 and you got your Division 2 schools. And Max Mines, they merged them. Then you get your legendary Hall of Fame coaches that went to HBCUs to coach, these teams. All I'm gonna say this: great idea, great event, great event. If you're watching it, great event. But
shout out to the CEO, first of all.
Yeah, shout out to him. Actually, I met him last year, when he went, and it was just crazy, how much work he was doing behind the scenes, because even before the event, like that whole week, they got basketball practice, they got career fairs that you can go to, they got pep rallies, they got all that stuff, to help like bring the fans, make them feel wanted. And then you got the game, and I believe the game was the game was that Easter. So, you get the best of both worlds in that. But the only thing that I'm gonna say this that I wish that could be better, and I know it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time. It just got to get more media attention. But let me say this: if I'm gonna say this before I go to our next topic, if Division 2 schools, if the Division 2 championship can get streamed on ESPN, why not an HBCU school can also get featured on ESPN? At a later time slot. I'm saying this to ESPN officials or TV officials. If you're watching this, take some time to go check out this event next year. This creates real money. Real money for these HBCUs, and that's what they need. But that's what they need. But jumping to our next topic, Michael, in baseball, we had a a world of upsets. I'm gonna say this. Down goes LSU, defending national champions. And to anybody, I've been seeing this in the comments a lot. Oh, LSU isn't good no more. It's not an upset. They were
Uh,
st- they were still ranked. I saw they were still ranked. So one, they were still ranked, and two, that's a national champion. That is a defending national champion. Compared to the school size of Bethune-Cookman, that is very much an upset. So let me say this: stop trying to take away credit from HBCUs. South Alabama got upset by Alabama State. South Carolina State, they won their softball. Went, I forgot which team they beat, but they went and won themselves with the upset. And I'm gonna say this to anybody. And also shout out First Take for featuring Bethune Cookman, and HBCU on ESPN. Michael, I know you showed me that.
shout First of all, shout out to the brother who spoke on
Yes,
Bethune because he was the only one in that clip that said something about just how important this is, and I'm gonna base my opinion off that because I agree with him. This is huge, and it is. But first thing, I don't mean to cut you off, Deuce, but I got to say this right quick because I knew this was coming, and Deuce, I'm not even surprised that you said that. But let me go and say something real quick. First of all, whether or not LSU was ranked or not, it's still LSU. Okay, I know that
that's a
because I
school.
know that you know that, dude. LSU is still LSU, regardless of them not being ranked, regardless of whatever situation it is. Yes, they are struggling. They are struggling, but they are still an SEC school. They are still, like you just said, national champs. And not only that, Bethune-Cookman beat them on their own turf. Deuce, it's hard to beat LSU at that baseball complex. It is. But the fact that Bethune-Cookman went in there, took care of business, stood 10 toes down, and then back down, I don't care what nobody say. You can say, "Oh, LSU struggling." Oh, and first of all, LSU was ranked like you just said. If you don't know that, go do some research. Matter of fact, I want you to go search up LSU schedule, search up the top 25 in college baseball, and I guarantee you LSU was ranked before Bethune-Cookman played it.
They were
It's
20.
just
They were 24. They were
yeah,
24.
Deuce. You don't know why they saying all this? They saying all this because of the embarrassment that they just received from a smaller school that they didn't even think was a threat. They didn't think Bethune-Cookman was a threat before they came in here. They, regardless of their conference record, regardless of their overall record, they did not look at Bethune-Cookman as a threat. And Bethune-Cookman went in there, put some respect on their name. And I shout out to that baseball team for doing that. And first of all, shout out to Alabama State as well for doing that. Shout out to South Carolina State for doing that. Shout out to Savannah State, who beat number one Tampa in February. Shout out to them because the HBCUs is rising to a high level. They
And
rising to a
this,
higher level.
and with baseball specifically, I believe that HBs are starting, to find, they're starting to get players to actually come to play baseball. Let me say this: Bethune-Cookman's baseball team wasn't fully black. They had Dominicans. They had all race. It was a very diverse team, and
They
they
were
and they still came in to LSU's house in Baton Rouge and beat them. And let me say this: I feel like people say, "Oh, well, LSU has been bad all season." Well, a team with that capability and a team with that size should beat a school like Bethune-Cookman on any given day. But it didn't happen. Therefore, you can't make excuses now. You got to give them their respect, and that's what I feel like people just don't want to do. And I'm gonna say the
that's
same, the
that's
same.
what they don't want to do.
And that's the same for South Alabama. It's not as bad as the South Alabama State game. Because let me say this: South Alabama led for a very good time. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the box score right now. Alabama State didn't really come back until the seventh inning when they put up 5 runs, 5 runs, and then the eighth inning, another run to close out the game. They finished the game strong. The game doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you start. We say this all the time. It just matters how you finish.
Yep.
And both teams, Bethune-Cookman, South Alabama State, they played to the end. They played to the end. I'm gonna say this. It says trailing 5-1 in the bottom of the seventh inning. The Hornets 15 to 16. Mind they were under 500. Delivered a decisive 5-run frame to seize control of the game before adding an insurance run on the eighth. South Alabama struck first with 2 runs in the second inning and extended its lead to 5-1 in the third inning. Look, let me say this: if the bats are, I'm gonna say this because for watching baseball, if the bats aren't swinging, a 5-1 is hard to come back from. But
Mhm.
if you can hit the ball and field really well and play offense really well, you can come back, and that's what Alabama State did. Let me say this really quick. Oh, I'm gonna say this before I pass the mic off to you.
Oh, you
This
good?
week, this week, I believe this. it's gonna go down as an important week in HBCU history because it showed that HBCU started to make the crack, in my opinion, against some of these bigger schools. And and it doesn't happen often, in football. It happens
Mhm.
more often in basketball and baseball, but it still happens because majority of the time, 80% of the time, these bigger schools are gonna go and win. But the fact that these HBCUs can, leave a mark, because LSU is not gonna forget that. They're gonna go down and say, "Oh, we lost," but that is in history. In history,
Yeah, and dudes, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this really quick. Bethune-Cookman was not the first HBCU LSU played.
they
The
weren't. They lost to Southern a couple. They lost to Southern like last year.
yeah, and then not only that, regardless of LSU been struggling this and that. First of all, first and foremost, let me say this: Bethune-Cookman took advantage of the opportunity. LSU, yes, they were struggling, but they are still LSU. Just like Bethune-Cookman is still Bethune-Cookman, regardless of the race of the players that they have on their roster, they are still considered on the list of HBCUs. I don't care about the race. I wish somebody would sit here and try to bring that up to me. I don't care. They are still HBCU, regardless of how LSU was struggling. Yes, they were struggling, but they were ranked 24, just like you just said. And like I said, it's a massive upset at Alex Box Stadium. Like I said, that's a tough place to beat LSU at. And the fact that Bethune-Cookman stood 10 toes down and did not back down from nothing, that just proves, Deuce, that Bethune-Cookman, they had one mission, and that was to make a statement. But, Deuce, I'm going to go on and say this. I'm going to go on and try to break these four things down to you right quick. Why is this huge for HBCUs? I'm glad you asked. And I'm down to break it down to you. Let me first, want to know why this is huge? Recruitment leverage. Watch this. These victories prove that elite talent can thrive at HBCUs. Hold on, I gotta say it one more time. These victories prove that elite talent can thrive at HBCUs. Yes, they can. Beating an SEC powerhouse like LSU on their home turf is a powerful recruiting tool for attracting high school stars who typically look only at Power 5 schools, dude. Number two, watch this. RPI and postseason standings. Why is this important? The wins against ranked teams significantly improve a program's RPI, which is critical for securing at-large, I put them parentheses, bids for NCAA tournament. Number three, financial and institutional pride. Watch this. High-profile upsets generate national media coverage, like with First Take. As a matter of fact, I gotta say something after I finish this, which can lead to increased donations from alumni and better athletic facilities. Dudes, you know how big I am on better athletic facilities for the HBCUs. Especially, you remember what I said about Grambling. Number
Yes.
four, narrative shift. They shattered the myth that HBCU sports lack depth. But these games show that when given the opportunity to compete on big stages, HBCU athletes can outplay anyone in the country. Yes, they can. And I wish somebody would try to justify that because let me tell you something, HBCU players, they are just as elite as these Power 5 schools are, and Bethune-Cookman, Alabama State, and all these other HBCUs do. They prove that. They prove that. And I don't know how much of evidence that you can make that these HBCU players can compete with your players. They can compete with your players. But make no mistake, I don't care if your team is struggling. I don't care if your team is doing good. I don't care if your team is decent. They see a 5-5 record. Your school is still a Power 5, Power 4 school. And the reason why this is important because HBCUs need to make a statement. Now I've justified this so much, and I keep justifying it. I don't care if I'm repeating myself. I don't care. I'm trying to make my statement well known. Is that HBCU players and HBCUs can make a statement, and they what Bethune-Cookman just proved to all of us and many of the HBCUs. This is more than just a win. They are they are transformative statement moments that shift the national prestige of HBCU athletics. Deuce, let me also say this. It should not take first take. It should not take a win against LSU to get on first take. Dude, I'm sitting asking myself, why is it that when the HBCU does something, and I'm trying to be sure that I'm not tripping here, but why is it that when the HBCU beat a school like LSU, beat a school like Arizona, beat a school like Tulane, for example, they get on first take? And I understand that, oh, you know, this is a huge upset, and it is. But why does it take to beat a ranked team to be on first take? HBCU should be one of on first take's first list. Everybody else is. All the other Power Five schools are, hey, hell, they on there with these. Excuse my French, but hell, they on there with these, dudes. But why does it take when Bethune-Cookman beat LSU? Now all of a sudden they want to put them on there, but they ain't put them on there this whole year before they season even started. You see what I'm saying here, dudes? It should not take a national televised game like this to get media attention, and it's kind of disappointing to me that if the Power Five and Power Four schools can get on here with these, why does it take one thing for HBCUs to get on there when they have had many opportunities winning SWAC tournaments, winning MEAC tournaments, but they don't get on there? Do that. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm gonna say this. Because aside from the SWAC tournaments and their championship games, they don't. But when a smaller school like that upsets a bigger school like that, it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen because and it sucks because this even happens to the smaller schools. Like I think of March Madness. Nobody will be worried about a Cinderella team until they come and beat, a top school. I remember a few years ago, Loyola Chicago. It's like 2010s. They went on a run in March Madness, and they was like a small school, a very small school. There was like a Cinderella team. They made it all the way to the Final Four. Then that's when they started to get the recognition they deserved. That is, it's a bummer. It's a bummer because it happens to all small schools. It happens to all small schools, but I think it has to be a wake up. Yeah, and I just think it has to be a wake up call. For one, NCAA, two, streaming services, three, cable. Stream our smaller schools, not just our HBCUs, just stream our smaller schools. Every school always offers something big or small. You just have to, let it be exposed. And if it's exposed, more people will start to see that. But let me say this really quick, because you were speaking about statement, and the next topic that I wanted that you sent me a couple weeks ago, or like last week, when I want to talk about is Kentucky State. They are one of the HBCUs, but they're changing their stuff around to be, and they're trying to say they're not considered a HBCU no more. Mike, I told you this. You can't take a HBCU from a historically black college. That's probably the dumbest statement I didn't heard. And the one thing I said, people are trying to say, oh, this is not going to be an HBCU anymore. You sent me a thing just not too long ago of students are starting to fight back against that bill because what you're trying to do is erase history. Erase history. But one thing I'm going to say is you can't erase history from Kentucky State because the HBCU is always going to be HBCU and it's always going to be there. Archives, media will keep that, but the fact that, I get that you want to better the school. I got no education is the most important thing when you go to college. You go to college to get your degree, to get a career. But don't sit there and say, oh, this is not going to be an HBCU no more. That's disrespectful to what our ancestors built, what they started. Because I guarantee you, they started from scratch. Most colleges started from basements and churches. Some started in classrooms. Don't do that. Don't do that because despite the size, yes, despite the size of Kentucky State's not as big like Grambling, and Grambling's not as big like LSU. But Kentucky State still has a culture. And the one question I always ask our guests, can you describe the culture here? Imagine you take that away from Kentucky State. You see how alumni is going to look at that?
Yeah. See, there's first and foremost, before I even break this down, let me go and say this right quick. These lawmakers, they are so full of it. They are so full of it. They are so full of it. And it's irritating me, and that's exactly why I sent you that. I sent you that, and I'm so glad, dude, because while I was doing my research, I just happened to saw a video that basically helps me break down this what I'm saying. First and foremost, Kentucky State will and always will be an HBC darn you. It will always be an HBC on you, regardless how these state makers. Dudes, these state lawmakers. Let me tell you something. These state lawmakers, they don't care. They don't care about the history. They don't care about this historical black college. They don't care about Kentucky State University. All they care about is money. That's what this whole thing is. Money. They don't give a darn about the education. I might not know much about what's going on at the university, but I know for a fact that there is nothing wrong with the education. There's nothing wrong with these excuse me, sororities and fraternities. There is nothing wrong with this campus. There's nothing wrong with this university.
Let me
Dude,
say
this
this.
is all about money.
I'm
That's
gonna
what
say
it
this because yes, it is about money, but I'm gonna say this from a student that goes to Graham. At times, I can feel like I look at LA Tech compared to Graham. Their curriculum with their education is harder. It's nothing wrong. Look, let me phrase this right. I don't think it's nothing wrong with the school. Yes, in some aspects, the education can be better. I can speak from my experience here at Graham. Look, at Graham, I hate to say it, you got teachers that just don't even teach the students half the time. Oh, we cancel class this day, cancel class that day, cancel class the next day. Or we got professors who in faculty around the school who, don't take the students seriously. But that doesn't mean you go and you try to switch. You can always improve. You can always improve. But you can't take the HBCU out of an HBCU. And that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, look, there in my eyes, yes, the education is not horrible because it's a university and they have to pass certain stuff in a certain curriculum to teach. But in my opinion, I just believe the HBCU education could be better. But my issue is why instead of I get incorporating something new. I get it. But the part that bothers me is people are trying to say this is not going to be HBCU no more. We're transforming this from an HBCU. That is what bothers me. That is honestly because, like you said, Michael, there's nothing wrong. Michael, Greek life on HBCU campus is honestly one of the best things. That it's not like your regular PWI. HBCU sports is not like your regular PWI. College bands, HBCU bands are not like your regular PWI. Let me say this: one thing that HBCUs do well, although they are a smaller campus,
Come on,
they
dude.
they know how to pack that stadium out and support HBCU alums and students. Despite the record, despite all the bad going on, at the end of the day, your average HBCU student is still gonna show up to that football game, show up to that event, sit with their friends because they are in college and they want to have a good time. The alumni, they're still going to come back because they want to relieve those good times. You cannot take an HBCU out of an HBCU.
Yes, sir. Dude. Oh, dude. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on. Come on. That's what I've been. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you, dude. Kentucky. Let me go and break this down right quick, because dude, you just put the nail on the coffin right there, bro. I'm gonna be straight with you. Kentucky State University is still an historical black college university. They are still an HBCU. The rumors that it is not an HBCU anymore stems from the new legislation, basically the Senate Bill 185, passed in April this month, okay, that officially transitions the school into a polytech institution. That's not. I got resources. That's from Instagram. Now, here's a breakdown on of what this change actually means for the university. Okay, one, it is a mission shift, not a loss, not a loss of status. I'll say it again. It is a mission shift, but not a loss of status. What I mean by that is Kentucky State is not losing its HBCU designation under federal law, dudes. An HBCU is defined by its founding mission and date established before 1964 to educate black students. The new bill explicitly affirms Kentucky State University's status as a four-year HBCU land-grant institution while adding a polytech model. Number two, focus on Tucky Tech. That's why I call it TUCKY, Tucky Tech. The university is shifting its academic focus toward highly technical, industrial-based learning. This includes, according to HBCU Buzz, STEM-heavy curriculum, a new emphasis on the fields like welding, HVAC, robotics, and supply chain logistics. Number two, limited programs. Watch this. For the next 5 years, Kentucky State University will limit its in-person undergraduate program areas to no more than 10 specific fields focusing on workforce aligned careers. Next thing, liberal arts preservation. While the focus is changing, the amended bill ensures that certain liberal arts programs and Divine Nine Black Greek, like you just said, those organizations remain protected. Now that's according to Linear Report. Number three, state oversight and financial ex- 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 exigency. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I think it's exigency. The state describes this move as a lifeline to save Kentucky State University from a permanent closure after years of financial struggle and nearly 20 million in debt. Now that's according to WKYT. But here's the thing: 5 year oversight, dudes. Watch this. Kentucky State University will be under strict state financial control for the next 5 years. Next thing, stricter admissions. The new requirements include a minimum 2.5 GPA and an 18 ACT score, or SAT equivalent, for all applicants. Now, number four, why the whitewashing concern? That's right, I said it. Why the whitewashing concern? Here it is. Critics and students have voiced concerns that this shift could dilute the traditional HBCU experience. Some fear that narrowing the curriculum to trades and technical training might exclude students who are originally drawn to Kentucky State University for its historical liberal arts and teaching mission. In short, Kentucky State University remains as an HBCU by law and name. Let me say it again. Kentucky State University dudes remains an HBCU by law and name. They can't change it. They can't erase it. You can't erase history. You can't erase history. But it is undergoing a massive restructuring that prioritizes workforce training over its traditional board academic model to ensure it stays open. But here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Kentucky State University is not losing its HBCU title because of the status is based on its 1886 founding date to educate black students. A history that cannot be changed. Like I just said, you can't erase history. I don't care what you can put money into it. You can put a better dealing company with it. You can't erase history. And I refuse. Kentucky State students refuse to let that history be erased. But however, it is a transitioning from a traditional liberal arts HBCU to a specialized Tucky Tech. So, dudes, like I just said, you can't erase history. You cannot erase history. These lawmakers can try, but I am with Kentucky State people. I am with you. Me and Deuce are with you because I refuse to let them do this to y'all. This is more about money than it is about better education.
And let me say this: on the outside, it would look like, yes, they're trying to better the education. That's what the media wants you to believe. They're trying to better the education. That's cool and all. But when you
There's
dive
nothing
deep
wrong with
into it, when you dive deeper into it, it's the fact that they're trying to whitewash, take control, and when a campus starts to implement stuff, stuff starts to build and become a tradition, and over time, stuff can change from how it originally was. And I
Yep.
think what a lot of people are just fearing is that, okay, if we go around and we change this, we start limiting how many students can come in and all this and that, is it going to change the culture of our campus? And
Mm.
that's not what you want. Because
Here's the bad.
and what I'm saying is because we were talking with Ms. Jefferson. Every campus, I said this in my interview, every campus has a different culture. They have their
Mhm.
own saying, they have their own motto. It means something.
It
When
means
you
something.
go and change that, you're messing up history. You're messing up founders. You're messing up greats. You're messing up legends who put blood, sweat, and tears into that campus. Michael, you think how do you think Grambling would feel if all the blood, sweat, and tears, the band, the
Mhm.
academics, the sports, that was just washed away, and somebody said, "Oh, we're gonna come taking control over the school. We're gonna implement how we want to run this campus." And yes, HBCUs could do better at running campuses, but at the same time, y'all don't give them no money to help them run the campuses properly. So I mean, it's just like, bro, what? How is that? In my eye, how is that an HBCU's fault when they are you're underfunded and then you expect them to have better?
But you want to sit here and claim that they ain't got no good educational program. You want to sit here and make it seem like that the they're messing up y'all funding. So we got to change some things. We got to y'all are like the FBI. Y'all like the
It's
FBI. We
it's
gonna
like
come in here. We control this situation now.
no, and it's like,
So
bro, they it's
because they
just
said time for it.
in my eyes is very hypocritical because look, I just feel like how do you just come and change something when you literally don't fund them? And look, Michael, I tell you this all the time. HBCs weren't we talking about when Grambling got that all that scholarship money to go build a new facility? That is exactly what they needed. That is
Right.
going in the right direction. Not
Mhm.
giving them is not going in the right direction, but trying to take control over them. That's what that's what causes tension. And
Mhm.
soon enough, you're going to start to hear more and more backlash because people are going to start to speak out because
Yep.
nobody's going to like that. Nobody's going to like that. And if I'm the president of Kentucky State, I'm actively trying to get something fixed so we don't have to, look, or find a compromise because Michael, like me, you said, there's nothing wrong with wanting a better education for black students. Black students have always never had the best education. They've
Right.
they've never had the best education. I have no issue with them trying to fix education, but it's the fact in my eyes that they're trying to change the culture.
Change the
That's what's
culture.
bothering me. And changing the culture is going to change and affect many aspects of that university. Many aspects. Yeah, for right now, the band and the team and the stuff, for right now, it's not going to change immediately. But over time, more and more stuff is going to
Yep.
change. But the one thing I'm going to say this, Michael, before I close this out because I believe we didn't have any more topics.
Yep.
You cannot take an HBCU's identity away from an HBCU.
Mm-mm.
HBCUs will always, in my opinion, you can say, oh, P1 schools, they got the better athlete, the better sports because they're on. No, go to HBCU game and watch a good game like Grambling versus Jackson State. That is
Yes.
going to have you hooked. Go and sit there and watch a halftime show, a zero quarter, a fifth quarter.
Uh,
That's going to have you hooked. Go and sit there and go to a fraternity or sorority probate. Watch them recite everything from Greek fraternities because let me say this: also fraternities got their own identity too. Fraternity D9 was created because they didn't get a chance at these white schools, and now they everything is distinct from a PWI for a reason, and HBCUs and mainly me, I intend to keep it that way.
and all these sororities and fraternities is the historical one of the historical icons on why HBCUs are the way they are today.
Yes, and look,
That's
you can, and
why.
I don't. You look, they do. You can have your opinions on them, but they still do so much for the campus, and they do so much for the environment around them. They do so much, despite what's going on in the past.
Yeah.
Despite what's going on in the past, and yes, condolences. Despite what's going on in the past, but fraternities and sororities, they still have to get their respect. Because what they do on that campus, they make the campus distinct itself. You don't go around and see that all the time at PWI because when they do have those at PWIs, they're shut out from the bigger, the white Greek fraternities.
Mm-hmm. Dude, what the all white schools or the power five whatever schools, their Greeks, their sororities and fraternities cannot match HBCU sororities and fraternities. I don't care what nobody say. You can't match. You can't match what all these bigger schools got. When you go to HBCU, it's way more energetic. It's way more. And I know dudes still, like I said, when we was at the Graham Southern game, what happened? Greek show, court full of sororities and fraternities, and their stepping routines, their rhythm, their logo, their slogan, all that. That's what these Power Five schools don't have. But watch this though. For many, this is good news because it ensures the school survives for others. But here's the bad news, and this part is gonna trip you out right here. Because the institution they loved is being forced to change its fundamental character. Watch this. Because it's to satisfy the state lawmakers. Dude, this is nothing but trying. The lawmakers won't Kentucky State to change to satisfy their role. That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. And dudes, like I just said before, you, the state is accused of reviving the early 20th century models that limited black students from vocalization, training rather than board intellectual development through liberal arts. You can't take away liberal arts. I don't give nobody say. You can't take that. And I'm just gonna say this right quick before we end this show off. This is nothing but to satisfy state lawmakers. That's what they want. That's what they want Kentucky State to do. But you don't see, but like you just said, y'all are not giving money to this university. But watch this, dude. I guarantee you they're giving money to Kentucky University and SEC school. I guarantee you they're giving money to them because they got more money than Kentucky State. But you want to come here. You want to control everything because you feel that Kentucky State is not making enough money, federal funding,
that y'all don't give them, that y'all do not give them.
That y'all don't give them. Dudes, that is the most craziest thing. That is the most craziest thing about this segment. This is like I said, this is about money that they are not giving them, and this is nothing but to help them satisfy themselves because they want to poke fun of an HBCU just to satisfy their financial stability role. Dude, this is all about money. Ain't nothing wrong with Kentucky State. But like you just said, there's nothing wrong with better education. I'm all for that. But this is more about money than bettering education. I want somebody to argue with me on this. That's what this is. Read between the lines. That is what this is. There is nothing wrong with Kentucky State. But you are not thinking about what the student's lifestyle, the historical thing that made them go to Kentucky State. But you want to wipe away what Kentucky State is known for because you want to be satisfied for your financial funding? Financial funding you're not giving them? No. No. And I'm with Kentucky State on this protest. Dude, I don't know what you said, but I stand corrected. That there is nothing wrong with Kentucky State, and Kentucky State will always be an HBCU regardless of what the state lawmakers try to do. I don't know nothing about these state lawmakers over there in Kentucky. But I know this for a fact, money can't erase history.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this because look where I stand. I've always said this. Yes, HBC, because like I said, I can keep saying this all day because I go to a whole HBC myself. Yes, it can be better. It can be better, but that don't mean I want it to change. Look, I told my mom this last week. I said, I said, Mom, I got no issue with Graham. I said, yes, Grambling could be better in the terms of, you know, the education curriculum, the housing, sometimes the food. But then I always look back to it. And sometimes I always ask myself, look, maybe for myself, do I want, to transfer to tech, to better my education? There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want anybody to come into Grambling and like change it. Tell them what to do and tell them how to run their school. To me, I believe it's up for them, Grambling, to hear the errors and want to fix it themselves. But I'm gonna say this. Because as much as I always complain about it, in the back of my head, I always keep my chin up because I say this. It's not Gremlin's fault all the time that they don't get the federal funding they deserve.
Yep.
They just don't. But the one thing I'm gonna say is that HBCU students know how to do. They know how to make the best of what they got. They know how to make
Yep.
the best of what they got. The housing isn't the best, but I still come here and make it feel like home. You
Hey,
know, the curriculum isn't the best, but I still go in there and I take all the classes, get the internship, so I, can better. And I can tell you this, I bet you, I take Grambling. I went to the honors college thing today, and the amount of
yes.
students that were there for the president's list, you would be like, wow,
And my sister was part of it.
wow, because I was literally there today. In fact, let me see if I no my medal. I put my medal up, but the amount of students that were there today, it goes to show that Black excellence is still there.
Still
We,
there.
it's still there. It is still there. But to just to wrap up this podcast, you know, it's we're pretty much wrapped up in the basketball season. Basketball season went by pretty fast. We're
Yep.
entering the off season. We're entering the off season for HBCU sports. Baseball is you're about to see probably more baseball content because baseball is literally underway.
Yeah.
Baseball it goes to spring and summer and fall. But also the one thing I do want to talk is we'll soon be talking about I had an idea. We'll be evaluating different HBCUs due from their spring game performances. I made a post on our HBCU Central. I believe you got Grambling, you got Prairie View, you got Howard, you got South Carolina. So you got all their spring games coming up. You got Jackson State. So spring games we can get a chance to evaluate the teams. So we'll be start doing that as well. We'll
Mhm.
also have some more. We'll also have some more coverage with some more HBCU athletes. Like me and Michael said, we got some guests. We got some more guests coming on. And look, let me say this. Like Michael said last week, we are booked. We are booked. We're on a tight schedule, so we're kind of moving days around a little bit. But trust me, every guest, if you want to get on, we will get you on. Look, one thing I say that we, one thing I say about this, we'll devote most of our time, to spreading the message when we get that free time in the evening. You know,
Yes.
me and Michael have went 4 days in a row before. If the message can get out, that is what matters to me. Like I have this that says support Black colleges.
Yes.
That's the main goal at the end of the day. Support our Black colleges, and as long until we get, and it's gonna take some time, but until I feel satisfied, I'm gonna keep doing this every day.
Yep.
I hope that y'all are enjoying the news content that we have started posting. Anything that you want that you feel like you would want to post to start posting it or DMing me.
Yep.
Michael's been having me post news updates on coaches changing. I've been posting play recognitions. I've been
Yeah.
posting highlights. I've been posting throwback clips. I know, Michael, you saw the Grambling throwback clip. I posted of Bruce Eugene just to let some
Yeah.
of our, HBCUs or people that don't know about HBCUs, see that what these offer, what these
Yeah.
clips. So just stay tuned to that. We got more reels. We got more clips coming. We got a lot of content coming, and HBCU Central is starting to take off. Um, I got a
For
feeling
sure.
it's starting to take off soon because look, we're getting views, and it's the message is working. The message is
We're
working.
yeah, we're getting close to 300 followers. Like I said, I don't care about followers, but I do keep track of that because
It shows the
improvement
support.
improvement
It shows
matters to me.
it shows the support.
Shows the support. And dudes, we're 12 followers away. We just jumped to 288. We were at 287 before we started, and you know that's good. Because like I said, we're only 12 followers away from 300.
And it's crazy because I have a feeling I got a feeling that this our HBCU work is going to end up eclipsing the Inside the Locker Room page with that work, and you don't want that to happen because Inside the Locker Room is the main goal,
Right,
but also
right.
promoting HBCUs is also the main goal as well. But if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But look, me and Michael said we don't care about the followers. Me more specifically, I just care about the views because it shows how
Yeah.
many people actually watched it, so they could hear the
Me,
message and share it.
me personally, I just care really about the statement that that our statement is being watched and our statement is being heard. First and foremost, let me also say this while we are still on camera. I have been working on a theme starting next episode actually, which will be tomorrow. I'm not gonna say who it's gonna be. It's a surprise. Y'all know we like to surprise y'all, so stay tuned for that. But I am working on I just finished, but I'm probably gonna go back in here, Deuce, and probably retouch some things. But I am working on a theme that's called the definition of HBCU legacy and why HBCU pride should never fade. That will be the theme of every show that we start. Probably not what I guess. I'm still thinking about how I want to do that, Deuce. But um, I have been working on this, and I will say this, Deuce. I, I'm gonna give you just a little example of what I've been working on. The definition of HBCU legacy is an unbroken chain of education and empowerment founded when Black Americans were legally or systematically barred from higher education. HBCUs created a space where marginalized wasn't a label but a starting point. I'm gonna leave it at that. But that will be something that will be the icon message of this show starting off of why HBCU Central and why does HBCU support and why does HBCU Central support HBCUs. This will be the platform of every single show because every show has a theme, right? Every show has a theme message starting off. And honestly, I feel like that this is a icon of HBCU Central that will help our guests and that will help you understand why we're doing what we're doing. Like I said, we're not doing this for viewership, but every I'm trying to say how to say this. Every foundation, every single sports show has to have a theme for something. Has to have a little, welcome to this, welcome to that, all this and that. That is
Yep.
what this is going to be. And but first and foremost, let me just say we appreciate y'all so much for coming. Uh, we appreciate y'all for staying with us. Um, we might a little bit, we might have went over our time, but it was a good episode. And sometimes it's kind of hard to cram everything in, but the conversation gets so good we lose track of time. But like Deuce just said, we appreciate all the support that you've given us over these past couple of weeks and months since we started this in January. And Deuce, I honestly feel like what we're doing is going to get us in the right direction. I don't have my HBCU shirt on right now. I couldn't find it, but HBCU Pride is an important foundation for people like you and me,
It
for people
is.
like you. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we bring players along. We're not doing that for viewership. We're bringing players along to get their name out there and the university, especially Mississippi Valley State University. Because like Ms. Jesse just said, Mississippi Valley State is not really a school people are looking at, and they are downgrading them. But that's really good. That's part of the reason why we do what we do. Is to help Mississippi Valley State get higher, but it's going to take them to get them higher because we can only we can only bring, but it's up to them to uplift their foundation.
Yeah. So, and that foundation is gonna be a word that always sticks. It's gonna be a word that always sticks. But to close this out, um, just like Michael said, sometimes we try to keep it short, but when you get so when you get so deep into a conversation that you're like actually feel like you're connected with and you're speaking
Yeah,
from the heart, you're going to lose track of time because we've
lose track
talked we've talked, we've almost talked an hour and 45 before. So,
of
but anyways, to close this off, make sure you check out our last week's episode. We had two of them. We had one with Ethan Poetic, our mental health guest. I really advise y'all to check that out. Mental health awareness month is coming up next month. So, take time, check on your loved ones, check on your mental. And also, our last one was with Elijah Wilson from Johnson C. Smith.
Mhm.
Great interview. I believe one of his reels just actually blew up. Uh, it blew up, and the support that we got in the comment was incredible. I think
Right.
that's probably the most comment section I've ever seen. So shout out to that, and that's what we want to keep saying. We want to keep saying seeing. But let me say this before I close this out. If you have a friend that wants to get on, promote this to them.
promote this to them.
promote this to this, and we will get them. Me and Michael will make time for everybody. You know, it don't matter the skin color. It don't matter. No, if you go to HBC, if you go to any, if you go to any, if you want to speak, if
Facts.
if you want to speak, just come on. You know, if you want to speak, just come on. You know, and I don't got time for. I don't got time to get into the other conversation. But look, if you want to come on, just come on, and we will get you on.
Exactly. One more thing. I'm gonna give this heads up now. Me, dudes. I don't know if you still want to keep running this, but on April 20th through the 25th, or well, really the 19th through the 26th, I will personally be out of town with my wife, so um, there might not be any HBCU
But
Central
it'll probably be
shows.
inside the locker room. It'll
Yeah,
most likely just be inside the locker room.
yes, but for HBCU Central wise, there won't be any shows for that entire week. Like I said, I'm going out of town, but we
Well, so
will get things back up and running before April ends, or maybe after April ends. I'm still trying to get some players on that last week of April, dude. But
I'm
yeah,
gonna say
I
this.
just wanted to get that heads up.
And I'm gonna say this: if look, there will still be HBCU Central coming out. You know, look, HBCU Central content coming out. It we don't have a YouTube video or reels. We most definitely will probably just probably look. Me and Michael got so much HBCU Central content that
So
we could literally post reels. I could post reels from every show, but I just try to limit 3 from each episode from each of our segments. But most likely, what I would just might likely do that week is I'll end up reposting some old footage from some of our old interviews, and then I'll go ahead and post extra more news content and just more highlight reels. But like we always say, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Promote, promote, promote. Thank you for watching, Michael.
yep. Until next time, y'all, grace and peace be upon you. Pray for one another, protect one another, love one another, but also make sure that you pray for yourself. And like I say in the words of my pastor, may your next days be your best days. Till next time, Michael HBCU Central and here on Deuce,
See you.
inside the locker room. Grace and peace.